Good evening. Welcome to the Metaverse. Welcome to our NFT 101 showcase. I'm Tricky Lopa of Art Fair Philippines. And before we begin, just a few reminders. There will be a Q&A session throughout this talk. So please feel free to type in your questions at the Q&A button, and the moderator will get to them at some point. Our NFT of the Philippine Islands. We'd also like to thank our education partners, the Ateneo Art Gallery, Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and Art Review. Tonight, we continue with our series of talks and discussions on NFTs, non-fungible tokens. This is the second to the last talk in the series, but I think it's quite special because we're having a conversation with a legend in the crypto art community of the Philippines. An OG, if I get my Crypto 101 correct. To introduce him to you, I will bring to the stage the curator of our NFT 101 showcase, Chris Fussner.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, let's get the ball rolling. Let me just introduce Chris quickly. Chris is the founder and director of Tropical Futures Institute, which is a multidisciplinary think tank based in Cebu. He has been an invaluable resource in putting this section together, and we wouldn't have been able to do this without him. So Chris, I'll leave the floor to you, and you can introduce our speaker for this evening. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Tricky. Hey everyone, so I'm Chris, founder of Tropical Futures Institute. So yeah, we're a multidisciplinary think tank and studio engaging in cultural production and research related to things like residencies, parties, art and design shows, as well as representing artists at art fairs around the world. We've recently started to do some curation, co-curating a show at the National Gallery of Singapore, and right now the honor of co-curating the NFT section of Art Fair Philippines. So this all started several months ago. Thankfully, my trollish Instagram handle, DJ Blockchain Algorithms, led Tricky to DM me several months ago, which then led me to rope in Colin and Gabby, my co-curators, which I was lurking in a Discord server called cryptoart, and just, you know, just like chilling out there and observing everyone. And yeah, and we still haven't met today, actually. Everything's been on Zoom and Discord and Telegram chats. So my crypto journey started in 2014, researching decentralized mesh networks, which then led me to Bitcoin several years later. And you know, I'm glad to finally be combining my crypto interest with my cultural practice. So my participation in the NFT space is a translator, macro ecosystem participant, art, you know, looking at art, design, gaming, and the finance aspects of NFTs. And yeah, just a short intro. I know it's almost the end of our program, but hopefully the last 2 weeks of talks have, you know, basically changed your mind or added to your knowledge about NFTs. You know, it's just, we were trying to introduce as many different voices surrounding the NFT space, including, you know, our own community here in the Philippines, you know, the Crypto PH community, early Filipino crypto art adopters. We also had international veteran blockchain artists and some art world voices that are exploring crypto art. So, you know, like NFTs and the crypto market is definitely in some sort of bubble right now, perhaps in a super cycle, but there are some novel technological and sociological innovations embedded within this hype that, you know, could perhaps have long-lasting implications after things cool down. So before I have the honor of introducing Louise, I would like to say thank you to the Art Fair Philippines team, especially Tricky and Jean. It's been a pleasure. Also would like to thank my fellow co-curators, Gabby and Colin. It's been a fun ride, and I hope we can all catch up in real life soon. So today I have the pleasure of introducing Luis Buenaventura. So Luis started working in the blockchain space, Bitcoin space in 2014 with his startup BloomX, focusing on creating practical cryptocurrency solutions for the developing world. In 2017, he authored the book Reinventing Remittances with Bitcoin, which collects strategies and stories about the fast-growing Bitcoin remittance industry. In 2019, he co-authored The Little Bitcoin Book, which is a non-technical primer on Bitcoin, its philosophy, and its practical applications. There you go. He's presented at the UN in New York, the OECD in Paris, and is a regular speaker at the International Money Transfer Conference. Luis has been building tech startups in the Philippines for over a decade now and is one of the world's first NFT artists with his crypto pop art initiative. What's up, Luis?
Hey, Chris. How are you? Thank you so much for the intro. Thank you so much, guys, for kind of giving me the opportunity to speak in front of your audience today. Um, so my name is Luis. I've been doing the crypto art thing for a while. I think the reason why I got the invite from Chris and Tricky and kind of the art fair team was because I've kind of had the luxury of being in this space for a while. I kind of started in 2017, back when the term NFT hadn't actually been formally coined yet. So I've had the benefit of, the last 4 years worth of making mistakes, so that now I can share some of those mistakes with you guys and maybe kind of help you guys kind of avoid it. Um, I think that it's probably important to acknowledge that, kind of it's a very nascent, very young side of the art industry. So, like obviously people like me, people like Chris and Colin and Gabby and a lot of the other NFT artists that are active right now, we're so excited about this stuff. And also we can't stop, you won't shut up talking about it, right? But I think it's important to acknowledge that there's a lot of stuff here that is still very young and still needs to be figured out. And that's why when I talk about this over the next 45 minutes or so, I encourage all of you to, please message in the chat what any of the questions that come to your mind, right? Don't wait, just put it out there. I think Chris is going to be watching. I know the team is going to be watching the comments, so they will just jump in and kind of put the question in. They'll say it live so that we can address it in real time. And that's kind of what we're aiming for here. No, we don't want this to be me just talking at you guys. We want to turn this into an interactive session where, generally speaking, as many of the possible questions that you have in your brains are like, we'll address as many of them as we can, right? So, okay, I'm gonna get started really quick and I'll do like a whirlwind intro. I'm gonna assume that you guys have probably heard about NFTs already, but for the people who don't, I'll just talk a little broadly about kind of why we're talking about it now. No? So this headline was published about 2 months ago, just a little over 2 months ago. Beeple sold an NFT for $69 million. So this sentence, if for most people, this sentence doesn't make sense, right? None of these words make sense. Who or what is Beeple? What is NFT? And I guess they probably understand what $69 million is. But like, it's just very confusing, right? If you've never heard of this stuff before. So, just to break it down, Beeple is the name of an artist. He is a motion graphics designer, a really good kind of motion graphics and digital painter who's been working in the industry for 2 decades. Very well known amongst a lot of motion graphics guys. He sold a piece of artwork. I think you can kind of maybe make out the screenshot here. No, the reason why it's so hard to see the details is because this piece of artwork is actually 5,000 different pieces of artwork that he put together into a single massive mural. And that mural, he sold it as an NFT and he earned $69 million for it. So that's kind of the headline at the top of it, kind of explained. What's really interesting about this is that it was not sold kind of quote unquote on the internet. No, it was sold by Christie's. And if you know a little bit about the art world, Christie's is a 370-year-old auction house. This is where you go to buy Picassos. This is where you go to buy Banksy's or Jeff Koons or whatever, right? These like massive traditional art names, these painters and sculptors that have contributed to the art world through the millennia. This is where you go. And what's interesting is that, you know, Christie's embraced this new technology, this NFT thing, and I'll go into a little bit about what that even means, later. But what's interesting is now we're at the point now where these kind of established auction houses that are hundreds of years old, they are now embracing this stuff. So Christie's, Sotheby's, these are the two of the largest ones, the most old and kind of the most historically significant ones. They're both doing NFT art as part of their regular auctions now. So this is no longer kind of the domain of nerds, I would say. I think it's definitely kind of crossing over into the mainstream, but big caveats all around, right? So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it's definitely kind of crossing over to the mainstream. There's still a lot of things that we need to talk about, and we need to figure out, kind of how it all comes together, especially if you are a Filipino, if you're a Philippine-based artist, like how is this something that you can get into? Or is it even appropriate for you to get into it? So that's kind of the point of this talk. That's why it's called How to Become a Crypto Artist. And at the end of the session, hopefully what you'll have enough knowledge to make that decision for yourself, whether or not you should become a crypto artist, because it's certainly not for everyone, but for the ones that give it a shot, it seems like there is some very positive benefit that you can get out of it. I wanted to show just a couple of other examples. So just in case you were wondering if there are examples of successes in the Philippines, right? Because People obviously is an American artist. Are there examples of Philippine artists that are doing well in this space? So Nara Gallery, which is run by kind of our friends Colin and Gabby and Chris, they recently dropped. They launched. Sorry, I guess I'll just use the simple words. They launched a set of art on a nifty platform, on an NFT platform. These are some of the pieces that they launched. And let's look at the prices really quick, right? Just so you can kind of get a sense of what we're talking about here. So you can see here, the collection was $500 per copy, per pack, and then of which they sold 197 copies of that. So 197 times $500, that's a little under $100,000. So, about in the 4.8 million peso range is kind of what they earned from this drop. Very, very promising, right? I mean, if you're one of these artists, I'm sure that you'd be very happy with that result, because you get a cut of that $100,000 roughly that they earned out of it. I actually have one of my own here also, if you guys wanted to look at it, and I wasn't really sure if well, I guess I just wanted to kind of just say it, because it's an example of a piece that is very specifically about the crypto community, and I think that one of the genres that works very well in NFT art is you talk about crypto itself. The art that comments on crypto tends to do well because, well, I mean, it's kind of the crypto context, no? So what you're looking at here is an example, is one of mine. It's called Satoshi the Creator. It's this animation that I did with an Argentinian comic book artist. Each copy was sold for $2,000, and 222 editions of that were sold. So it's 2,000 times 222. That's kind of how much we earned out of it. So again, there are definitely Filipinos, kind of living here in the Philippines, based here, working out of their homes in Metro Manila. In my case, I'm in La Union, but kind of same thing. We're able to use this new space, this new technology, this new subsection of the art industry. We're able to use it to, earn from our art, earn from the things that we are passionate about. So, if you'll allow me, over the next 45 minutes, I'm going to talk you through the process of how to get to that point, if you want, if this is something that's interesting for you. And then, just throw your questions on, right? Because really, what I've got here is a guide, and what I'd like to be able to do over the next 45 minutes is I want you guys to attack me with as many questions as you possibly can. Okay, so I'm gonna switch now to my other screen. Just a second. It's gonna go here. Originally the name of this talk was Everything You Need to Know About NFT Art. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. There's a couple of Twitter names here. So that's me at Hello Luis on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I talk all about NFTs. I talk about crypto. I talk about technology. I'm a startup entrepreneur here in the Philippines. So kind of those are the things I always talk about. And then BloomX.org is the name of my company. So please follow us on Twitter if you like what I talk about here. And if you don't like it, please follow us anyway. And then mention me on Twitter, and then flame me there. I think that's cool. So first question, why do NFTs even exist? And what is the specific problem that is being solved by this technology? Now, this is an interesting question, because what we're trying to answer here is, why should artists even care about this stuff? Now, other than the money part of it, which appears to be kind of weird sums, like sums that you don't normally see people paying for pieces of art, like, what is the reason for its existence? And the simplest way I can say it is this. NFTs, they solve two things. They answer the question of ownership, and then they define provenance. So ownership, you probably already understand. That's, like, who possesses the artwork, right? So when an artist creates something, when I paint it on a canvas, when I push pixels around on Photoshop, I am the owner of that work, that creative work. That is mine. Now, when I accept money for it from a buyer, a collector, a friend, or maybe if I don't even accept money for it, I just gift it to someone, that ownership transfers to them. Now, what's interesting about ownership is that it's very easy to prove ownership when we're talking about a physical piece, an oil canvas, a watercolor painting, a sculpture, whatever these things are, because they're physical. It's very easy to prove ownership because the physical thing, the canvas, the frame, the statue, it's literally no longer with the artist, it's with someone else. It's been given to someone else. Now, the problem is that you can't do that easily with digital, right? So when on Photoshop, when I save the file, I say, okay, I'm done. This is my life's work. It's done in this JPEG file, right? If someone comes along and says, oh my God, I really love that work, can I pay you some money for it? The idea of me moving the ownership of that JPEG file from me to them is a little weird. So this is the part where you have to really start thinking, because you have to ask yourself, why is it harder to do that? Well, because it's a JPEG file. It's a JPEG file that you can copy infinitely, diba? So parang, so yeah, sure, there's a JPEG file sitting in my hard drive, but it doesn't, just because someone says they want to pay me whatever, like call it 10,000 pesos for this JPEG file, do they actually own it if the JPEG file still also exists in my own hard drive? How do they guarantee that they actually own it? So that's kind of the thing that NFTs are trying to solve. No, it's basically a certificate of ownership. And what that means is that there is now it's kind of like a title, like when you buy land, the title for that land is actually just a piece of paper, that says that, Luis Buenaventura now owns this small plot of land in La Union, whatever, right? So that's what it says on the title of land. So same thing with NFTs. It is a certificate of ownership in a particular digital file. And that certificate of ownership is good enough for people to then look at it and say, okay, so Luis, the artist, the original person who made this JPEG file, no longer owns it because it has moved from someone. It is no longer with Luis, it is with the buyer. Maybe Chris bought it, right? So the certificate of ownership is now with Chris. And that also leads to provenance. Now, if you're not familiar with the word provenance, what that is parang the history of ownership of a given piece of art or given anything really, any object that can be owned. But the provenance is kind of like where it came from, who has owned it over the years. All of that stuff is also described inside the NFT technology. So what that means is that not only not only will people be able to know that this particular JPEG file was created by Luis, is now owned by Chris, but if Chris then resold it to Gabby, then Gabby then resold it to Colin, all of those things are described. And all of those things are easy to track. Now, maybe that matters to you, maybe it doesn't matter to you, but what does matter is that we've never had this before. In the digital art realm, this has never been possible. And that is the main technology innovation that NFTs have really kind of made possible. You can finally prove that you own something. You can finally track the possession, the chain of possession of that thing that you own. And you can look back and say, oh, okay, yeah, so I own this thing now, but like a year ago, it was owned by Chris. And before that, it was created by Luis, right? So those are the things that is kind of very new and very innovative about NFTs. Now, okay, so a couple of terms. This part I'm just gonna have to go through and I apologize because jargon is not, I'm not a fan of jargon. Unfortunately, it's kind of a thing that we will need to use in order to speak to each other about this stuff. NFT, the acronym, some people say nifty because I guess it's easier to say than NFT. I'm not a fan of using that word, but that pronunciation. But anyway, so NFT means non-fungible token. You don't have to think about the non-fungible part. You only have to remember the word token. And what that means is that this digital file is a representation of another digital file. So the token is the NFT that represents the ownership of this other thing, right? That's what a NFT actually is. So it's not exactly the digital file. It does not equal the actual JPEG, but it is a representation of that JPEG. You'll hear us use words like mint. What does mint mean? Mint is basically the creation of that token, right? So when you have a piece of artwork that you've made in Photoshop, Clip Studio, Procreate, whatever it is that you used, you have the final file. Maybe it's a PNG, maybe it's a JPEG. That is not an NFT yet. That's just a file. When you mint it, and I'll show you exactly what the process is like to actually mint something. When you mint it, then you've actually created the token that represents it. And that token is kind of like your certificate of ownership, right? We'll also be talking about editions. And I kind of already mentioned them earlier when I was talking about the sales of some of the art that we were looking at. Editions are like copies. So think about them kind of like limited prints, no? So if you were an illustrator and you wanted to do like a limited print run of your posters, you could do, say, numbered editions. You say, I'm only gonna make 100 copies of this poster, so I'm gonna sell them for, I don't know, $200 a piece, right? So that's kind of a very normal thing, especially in like comic book conventions and things like that, no? So that's very normal. So we have something like that in NFTs also. But what's interesting here is that the number of editions is literally 1 to infinity. And the way that we talk about that is like this. So we'll say, here's an example of an edition. You can call it a 1 of 1. What that means is that there's only one copy of it. That's pretty easy. right? So there's only one copy of it. It is very, very scarce. There's no other way to get a copy of this certificate of ownership of this piece. There's only one, but it could be 10 of 10, right? Or it could be, in the case of some of the stuff I was showing you, we minted 222 editions of it. That's possible too. Now, as an artist, how do you know which one of these you choose? Should I do a 1 of 1? Should I do a 10 of 10? Should I do hundreds? Like, what's the correct strategy? That part is very it really matters based on, you know, kind of your own personal strategy, your personal brand. I always flip flop between any of these three. All of these are valid. I sell 1 of 1s all the time. I mean, obviously I've sold one of these 200 plus edition ones. I also sell 10 of 10s. It really doesn't, like, there's no rule on this. It's more like, generally speaking, and I guess, parang, this is the part where it will be it'll be very relative to the artist. But generally speaking, 1 of 1s are the most expensive because there's only one. Therefore, if you try to think about it in terms of how much time, how many days, how many weeks it spent you to create that artwork, if you're only going to sell one copy of it, then that one copy better make you some money, right? However, if you're selling 10 copies of it, and you're reasonably confident that you could probably sell 10 copies to 10 buyers, then maybe you don't have to keep the price so high, right? So maybe it's only 10% of the price of what you were thinking of for the 1 of 1. And then if we're talking 222 editions, maybe you go even lower than that, right? Maybe you don't need to go high at all because, you know, if 200 people bought your stuff, maybe you don't have to price it so high. Now, obviously, the actual absolute prices are very relative to each artist, but I think that, you know, you can kind of think about this way. As the number of editions go up, right? So as the number of editions go up, right, the price goes down. So it's kind of an inverse relationship, right? So the price per edition is usually smaller. And that's a very generalized way to think about it. You don't have to do it that way, but, you know, kind of that's just one of the ways you could think about it. Now, here's another question that I always get. What can I actually sell? Now, I kind of ruined the joke here. Anyway, so I'll pretend that you didn't see that na lang. What can I sell? Well, you can sell drawings like we've shown, paintings like we've shown. I showed you an animation. That animation, actually, I didn't turn on the sound, but there's actually audio, there's a soundscape design in that animation also. So you can do that. You can sell that was sold in the MP4 format if you're a technical person. You can sell music. Bands like Kings of Leon, the artist Grimes, Eminem, they've all sold NFTs, right? That included their music in them. That is possible too. And then this one example here, I love showing this because it is an example of just how ludicrous this whole industry has become. I'll show you here. NYC man sells fart for $85, cashing in on NFT craze. So firstly, WTF, no? Like, what is this? So this guy, again, this is from about 2 months ago. So what this guy did was, so firstly, he's an independent filmmaker. So I guess he's not coming from nowhere. He's not random. He's not some random person, naman, no? He does have some inclination towards art. He filmed daily clips of himself and his friends farting. So 1 fart a day. And he made an NFT representing ownership in those video clips. And someone paid him $85 for it. So what can we glean from this? Well, basically, if you can sell a fart for $85 as an NFT, it's very likely that you can probably sell anything. Now, I'm not saying that this is the kind of thing that is repeatable. I feel like stuff like this is very novelty, you know, it's kind of a gimmick. but he's on the New York Post. I don't know if that matters to anyone watching, but like there you go. But he got his own headline in the Post. I don't think um, this is the last time we will hear of this guy. But anyway, just to kind of answer broadly the question of what you can actually sell. It turns out the answer to that is practically anything. If you are creative and I guess matigas yung mukha mo, I guess that's kind of the other way you could think about it. Now, okay. What are the actual steps? Oh, by the way, sorry, I should be looking at the chat just in case.
Oh, there is. So I've been.
Yeah.
You're about to, I guess, go into some questions. Like Roseanne asked, how much is the minting of an artwork? And there has been some questions regarding minting on Tezos with other platforms on Tezos.
Cool. Okay,
and
so let's
like
do
gas costs,
the marketplace. Yeah, okay, so let's do the marketplace stuff first because I guess that's a little bit more in the sequence of the talk anyway. So okay, so here are the actual steps now, and this is the part where I'm gonna try to explain exactly how you go about this stuff. So markets first. Where do you actually sell the NFTs? So in the NFT world, there are what we call marketplaces. And I guess you can kind of imagine this like online art fair, right? Where there's a 24/7 art sale going on. Every artist has their own storefront or gallery where they can kind of post their things. And then very importantly, there are drops. And what that is, it's this jargon. You usually hear it from like the sneaker guys. Like it's a new sneaker model that is being dropped today. So ganun din in the NFT art world, no? So you'll see these drops from famous artists. The marketplace will usually market and promote and support that drop because they're trying to push as much of those buyers in the platform to look at that piece or that drop. So what are the marketplaces? There's a lot. The one that I use the most is called Maker's Place. The one that I sold the 222 edition thing is called Nifty Gateway. But there's more. There's so many, right? OpenC is another, and then Rarible is another. There's at least 7 or 8 of them that are quite established. I didn't group them this way by accident. I'm going to just explain very quickly the differences. No? So with Maker's Place and Nifty Gateway, there is such a thing as an approval process. What that means is an artist can't just show up and then start selling there, right? Just in the same way as I actually don't know what the process in Art Fair Philippines is, but I imagine there is some kind of process where the artist, the gallery has to apply before they're able to kind of sell inside the art fair. Now, it's the same thing with this. Now, because there's so many artists that are trying to get into this stuff right now, there are very pessimistic estimates of how long it will take you to apply and then get approved, right? With Nifty Gateway, I've heard estimates that was like 5 to 6 months where you're waiting. I don't know for a fact if this is true now, but it doesn't sound like it's impossible because there's so many people who are trying to get in, right? Now, Maker's Place used to say 4 weeks, but you should probably check their FAQ so that you can get a better estimate of how long you would have to wait. So I'm on Maker's Place as kind of my primary gallery, and I was pretty lucky because I was able to get on very early back in 2018 actually. So I've had stuff there for a really long time. What's the difference?
Someone's asking, by the way, like what's the what are like the percentages like in terms of splitting between like the platform and the artists and stuff like that?
Yeah. I'll do that right after. So I'm doing costs and sales right after this. So one quick just an explanation of why I group these guys differently from these guys. These guys are more open. So OpenC, there is no approval process. It's, you know, anyone can join, right? So that means any artist, they just sign up. They just sign up, they'll get their own page, they can start uploading their stuff, and they can start selling almost instantly. Now, what is the reason why even go to the ones that require approval? Well, the primary reason is because Maker's Place and Nifty Gateway and the other marketplaces that have approval processes, they're doing that because they spend a lot of marketing money on promoting the artists. So if you're the kind of artist who's not very good at self-promotion, um, people like Maker's Place and Nifty Gateway can help you get the word out because they have a lot of people, looking at their drops. They have a lot of people subscribe to their newsletters. So they help you kind of get the word out. And generally speaking, if you are lucky enough to drop on either of these two bigger platforms, you'll usually do well. I would say like 95% of the time you will do well because there's enough eyeballs kind of looking at the stuff that they offer, that you wouldn't have a problem. Now, with OpenC and Rarible, the challenge is that it gets very noisy. There's so many people, there's so many artists selling there. So what do you do in order to get noticed? You can't market yourself from within these marketplaces specifically. I'll actually talk about kind of some tips later on about how to market yourself and market your work. But kind of within OpenC and Rarible and any of these other open marketplaces, there's no specific way that you will be able to kind of get to the top if there's many people who are also doing exactly the same thing as you. If you're an artist and you're trying to sell your work, there's literally hundreds of thousands of other artists doing exactly the same in those exact marketplaces. So parang the strategy of how to get yourself noticed is very different. Okay, so costs. So I just realized that I don't have real-time figures on this, but I'm gonna try to explain it anyway. I think what you will need to do is just double check some of my numbers now. What is the cost of actually? There's a couple of costs. What is the cost of minting? So minting isn't free when you're minting in kind of places like Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway, OpenC, and Rarible. That's not free. What is the actual price? It's not always the same. And in order to kind of explain why it's not the same, I'd have to go into how cryptocurrency works. But so what I'm gonna say na lang, I'll give you a range, right? So on a low traffic day, so let's just say that NFTs kasi they have to compete for space, and the reason why the price is different on any given day is sometimes there's congestion on the network, sometimes there's no congestion on the network. It can be anywhere from $50 to $300. This is a very big range, right? It's very big, and I'm sorry that I can't give you a better estimate, but it's the possibilities are quite large depending on how busy the blockchain network is. Now, the good news is that if you're trying to hit the low end, I mean, obviously you're trying to hit the low end. You don't want to spend too much money on just the act of minting your piece. The best recommendation I can make is Saturday evenings, Manila time. That is just historically speaking, the prices of minting are lowest around that time. I can't guarantee that they will be $50, especially these days. If you know anything about cryptocurrency, the market is insane right now. So it's very unlikely that you'll ever see anything like $50. It's probably going to be more like $150, but it's still better than $300. No, so that's kind of the best I can do, unfortunately. So think about it this way. Um, if you are a first-time artist and you are thinking about minting your first NFT and selling your first NFT, the range that you are kind of looking at, because it's kind of somewhere between $50 to $300, maybe even more than that. Sometimes you're really unlucky. The what you're trying to think about here is what all of your costs are. Therefore, because the costs that you have, that will inform the correct price for the piece, and that's kind of a very basic way of thinking about pricing. But at the very least, we know based on these numbers, you probably shouldn't be selling your work for less than $300, right? Because if the cost of minting is $300 and you sold the piece for $300 and it was a one of one, so isang kopya lang siya, then you've made nothing from it, right? So this kind of puts a floor on your price. What are the other costs? Well, there's the marketplace itself. Because obviously, if you are something like Maker's Place or Nifty Gateway, you're not gonna give away that marketing activities for free. That's expensive. That costs money. So what does the marketplace take? Typically about 20%, right? If you feel like that's high, it's usually 25% in the traditional art world. So if you backtrack to the very first thing I talked about earlier, where Christie sold people's artwork for $69 million, Christie's made over $15 million on that sale. And that is why Christie's is going to continue selling NFT art. They made a hell of a lot of money from that one sale. I think that that is enough money for them to continue investing in NFT art for a really long time. So again, the marketplace commission is 20%. How does this actually break down? So let's do like a fake, just a thought experiment. So let's say I have a piece of art, my Mona Lisa, right? I sell it for $1,000, right? So this is kind of like my target price. Now, in order for me to have minted this, I've already probably spent, let's just pretend for the sake of argument, I've already spent $200, right? So I've spent $200 on the minting. And then when I actually sell the piece, I also lose 20%, which coincidentally is another $200. What do I actually come away with? So it's $600. Still not bad if you are, kind of a younger artist. You're just kind of starting out. Like $600, 30,000 pesos is okay, right? Like it's certainly enough for you to work on the next piece, especially if kind of you're not working on like massive pieces of artwork. Maybe it's enough. And then obviously, if you're not a digital artist, if you're oil on canvas or if you're a sculptor, you have to think about your other costs, the cost of actual production. That part is kind of beyond this parang calculation na. But so just to kind of remind everyone what these numbers represent. So this is the sale price. The $1,000 is the sale price. The $200 is the minting cost, and then the $200 is the commission. And you'll come away with $600. However, one more problem, you don't get paid in dollars. Typically, about 80% of the time, you will not get paid in dollars. You are going to get paid in the dollar equivalent of Ethereum. Now, if you don't know what Ethereum is, you are going to have to do quite a bit of research, because it is basically the main thing that you have to get in order to participate in this entire NFT art thing, at least at the moment. Now, I don't know if that's going to change a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, but at the moment, this whole NFT art thing requires you to know a little bit about Ethereum. So what is Ethereum? It is a digital type of money, and that's the simplest way I can say it. It's a digital type of money. You hold it in a digital wallet, but it is not dollars and it is not pesos. um, it has its own exchange rate in the same way that dollars have an exchange rate against pesos. Um, so I'm trying to kind of avoid going into the whole conversation about like cryptocurrency trading and all of that stuff. That's actually kind of my full-time job. That's my day job. But let's kind of keep it na lang to the let's keep it at the level where Ethereum is a type of money. This is both the thing that you spend when you're minting the artwork, when you're creating the NFT. It's also the thing that you earn when someone buys it from you. Okay. Now,
Oh, Luis,
yes,
just want to interject.
yes.
There's two questions about
Mhm.
Tezos.
Mhm.
And one question is, would minting across different platforms dilute the perceived value of an artist? The
Right.
second question is thoughts on Hen, which is a marketplace on Tezos that's not using Ethereum.
Is that
Best bet while
that's
waiting
Hicket
out.
Nunk, no? Is
Yeah,
that?
Hikik. I can never
Yeah,
say it
yeah,
right. Yeah,
okay. Okay, right,
Hikik.
right, yeah, Hicket Nunk. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So so this is the part where already you guys are going to start to see why the cryptocurrency industry is so freaking weird, right, guys? So okay, so I just told you about Ethereum, which is kind of the system on which a lot of these things are built on top of. All of the galleries that I talked about, Maker's Place, Nifty, OpenC, Rarible, all of those guys are built on top of Ethereum, right? However, because crypto is crypto, there's also competing or opposing networks that are trying to do the same thing. Tezos is one of them. Um, the name of the marketplace on Tezos, the one that Chris and I couldn't pronounce, it's gosh, I hope I spelled this correctly. Is this right, Chris? Hic et nunc? That's
Yeah,
roughly?
that's roughly it. Yeah, I'll paste
Okay.
the URL in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So okay. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it either. I thought it was Hikatnang, but anyway, so Hen. Let's just call it Hen so it's easier. So these guys are alternative marketplaces, right? They are meant to be competing with those bigger guys that I was just talking about. There is a whole conversation about what is a cleaner or more environmentally friendly marketplace to list your artwork on. That's a debate that maybe if people are interested in, maybe we can talk about it a little bit later. But let's just say for now that they are different marketplaces with different monetary systems. So in Maker's Place, you earn Ethereum. In Hikatnunk, you earn Tezos. So that's a different money. You will have to also buy or sell that currency in order to get pesos back. Now, the question was whether or not it was cheaper. Yes. So is it cheaper to mint your stuff in Tezos? Yes, 100%. It is definitely cheaper, but there's a lot of caveats to that also. I think that generally speaking, and I'm speaking very, very generally here, the sale price, sale price of artwork there is also lower, and the number of buyers is also lower. Just like, and when I say buyers, I mean just the people who are looking around and kind of looking for art to buy. Both of those metrics are much lower in the Tezos marketplaces. Does that mean that you won't be able to sell something there? No naman. I think that if you know how to market yourself and you have enough of a connection to the NFT art world, then maybe you will still be able to sell there. I personally, I've never experimented there. I have some friends who have, but from what I've observed, both the sale price of their stuff there is cheaper and the buyers are also fewer. And that's a very broad generalization, and I am 100% sure that there are artists out there who will refute what I just said. I would say that it's a very relative kind of thing. No? To be very frank, I've never sold anything on Tezos. I've only ever sold anything on Ethereum. And that's kind of the extent of my expertise. Now, okay, so let's move on to, sorry, I lost my thing. Oh, okay, sales. Well, I guess I was already kind of talking about sales previously, So generally speaking, that's what it is, So when you think about a sale price, you have to think about the cost of minting and then the cost of the marketplace commission. By the way, just before I forget, yung 20% na yon is only for big, like these approval-based marketplaces like Makers or Nifty. In OpenC and Wearable, it's actually much lower. I think it's somewhere like 3%. And someone will have to double check the exact number for me, but it's small. Basically, the point is that, it's small because they don't help you with the promotion, right? They don't help you with all that stuff. You're basically on your own, And if you are lucky enough to have some marketing know-how, then maybe you don't need the work, the energy of Maker's Place or Nifty. But if you do, then yun, you'll if you're like me, like I don't really know much about self-promotion. I've been historically pretty bad at it. So when I drop on Maker's Place, I'm reasonably assured that I will sell something. No, but when I drop on OpenSea, it's very 50-50. And that's even with me having been doing this for 3 years. I still have a hard time sometimes on like a big open marketplace like OpenSea because it's very, very hard to get noticed. Okay. Okay. Now, so here's the part that is probably interesting for a lot of you. Assuming that you actually sold something na and you earned Ethereum or you earned Tezos or you earned some other cryptocurrency, where do you actually send it? How do you actually turn it back into peso? This is the one and only plug I will do for today. And I hope that you guys will forgive this because otherwise, like I
No,
wouldn't get the
please,
support of
it's
my company.
important. It's definitely important.
So okay, so where do you actually go, right? So that's the main question. So you go here. So this is BloomX. This is my company, right? And our main mission is to provide Filipinos with a quick way to turn Ethereum in their digital wallets into pesos in their GCash, their PayMaya, their BPI, their BDO, their Union Bank accounts, whatever it is. Also, we handle 250 different cryptocurrencies. And of course, Ethereum and Tezos are covered there. So if you're the kind of person who's already kind of considering this for yourself, if you want to, try your hand at minting your first thing, sign up with us. We're kind of in a wait list right now, but if you're an artist, I've actually gotten the agreement of my co-founders that we'll actually let artists on a little bit earlier because it's kind of like my passion project. And we want to give artists access to this stuff in the most straightforward way possible. So the URL, the website is www.bloomx.app. And that's my plug. So let me go back to my thing here. Do we have any other questions?
Should artists pop their waitlist number or something? Like how should
they can reach out to us. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know. What's the best way to?
So we're very active on Facebook. So if you search BloomX on Facebook, you'll see us there. That is the best place for you to reach out to us. Just send us a message. We've got a team that is constantly looking at our inbox. Not at this time though, because it's after work hours, but during work hours, you'll get a response within a few minutes. And you can just say that you're one of the artists that was watching this session and you wanna get started on the BloomX app, and they'll be able to hook you up. We're actually open on Saturdays also, so they'll be able to hook you up tomorrow morning if you'd like.
So there's
Yes.
an interesting question here. When I'm minting 100 NFT pieces, for example, do I have to pay gas fees for each of those
Yeah.
mints?
So I assume you mean that it's the same piece of artwork, no? So it's the same artwork. You just want to have 100 editions. So no, the cost is not. It's not linear. So you just have to decide at the start how many pieces you want to make. So if it's one, then it'll still cost you the same as if you had minted. There'll be a very small difference in the price, but it's not times 100 if you wanted to have 100 editions. It's not like that. So maybe for some people what that means to them is that, oh, maybe I'll just mint a lot, right? I'll just mint a lot because I'm paying the same amount anyway, and then that way in my mind I can kind of divide it na parang if the cost of minting is $100 and I minted 100 editions, then I guess my cost of minting is just $1 per piece, which makes it a little bit more reasonable. But you kind of have to ask yourself also, is it a good idea to sell 100 copies of this thing? Does that make sense? Will it make sense to my buyers? Will people want to buy 100 copies of a thing if they know that potentially 100 other people, 99 other people will have access or ownership of this work? It doesn't feel very rare if there's 99 other owners, no? So you kind of have to balance that. And granted, the whole minting cost is such a distraction because the price fluctuates so hard, and like I wish we didn't have to talk about it because it shouldn't be one of the things we have to worry about. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the technology as of right now. And this is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, where it's a very young industry, it's a very young technology, and as NFT art has become more and more popular, it's one of the causes of this increasing fees for minting because people are now competing with each other to get their art minted on the network. It's kind of an unfortunate consequence of the more and more people that are kind of getting into this stuff. Okay, let's talk about tips. And so this is the part where I will pontificate briefly about what I think it takes to become successful in NFT art. I tried to be as broad as I possibly could with this explanation because I feel like every artist is going to have a different journey. My own journey is weird because I was in the crypto industry already for several years before I discovered NFT art. So I had kind of a deep background in crypto, and then I also had a deep background in art. I went to fine arts in UP Diliman, so I already had like academic training in art, and I happened to be working in the crypto industry. So it was kind of this weird moment in time when I felt like both of the things that I knew how to do well were kind of like overlapping, and I didn't realize that was ever going to happen. So it was kind of lucky for me that was what happened. Now, okay, and your journeys are going to be different, obviously. I mean, many of you are not going to come from a crypto background. Most of you, I think, are not going to come from a crypto background. You're probably going to come from more of an art background. And the simplest way I could describe parang the recipe for success is these two things, uniqueness and reach. So what do I mean by that? So uniqueness is kind of like your story, and that doesn't necessarily mean the story of the artwork that you're publishing or minting. It could be your story, right? It could be where you're from, how you were trained, what your context in the world is. What is your unique story? Now, the earlier in the talk, I showed you one of the collaborations I did, the one that did quite well. That was a collaboration with an Argentinian comic book artist, right? So he and I were talking on Twitter, and then he shared an idea that he had about this particular superhero character, and then he asked me if I wanted to collaborate on it and kind of create the animation and the video and the sound design around it. So of course I said yes. Now, his story is very interesting because the guy is 87 years old. He started drawing comics, Wonder Woman, Transformers, a lot of DC stuff. He started drawing that in the 50s and 60s. So this guy that I was collaborating with, I've never met him in real life. He lives in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and I live in La Union here in the Philippines. We've never met, but he is old enough to be my grandfather. In fact, his son is older than me, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's what I mean by story, you know, and that's one of the things that makes him very unique. He's easily, probably, the oldest NFT artist, and you know, kind of when we collaborated, you could definitely tell that his story was very unique because people were really interested in buying the artwork, and as you can see from the sales, it did quite well as a result of that. The other thing is reach. Now this one is a little bit more. This one's a little bit more ambiguous. Sadly, the easiest way I can describe this is just Twitter. What I mean by that is that you are in a much better position to do well if you have a lot of Twitter followers. Now, for a lot of you, that's going to be depressing because you probably don't have a lot of Twitter followers because Twitter is not really a big social network in the Philippines. No, we're much more of a Facebook kind of crowd. So I have both. I have about 9,000 followers on Twitter, and I have about roughly the same people in my network in Facebook. But I can tell you that I've never sold anything as a result of posting on Facebook. Most of the buyers that I interact with are because of Twitter. Now, it's not just any type of Twitter either. It's not just like, you can't just have like tens of thousands of Twitter followers and then expect that your art will do well. It needs to be the correct type of Twitter followers. Are these Twitter followers the people who are, you know, familiar with NFT art? Do they know anything about cryptocurrencies? Because kind of small cohort of potential buyers. Granted, it's getting bigger every day. It's getting bigger every week and month and year. But supposedly there's only about 300 million crypto users in the world. So that's what you're really selling to. You're not selling to the world in general. You're selling to, you know, the number of people who are, you know, acquainted with Ethereum, maybe know a little bit about Tezos, all of those things. And then of that number of people, how many of them are actually into buying art? Maybe not, I'm pretty sure it's not 300 million, right? It's probably less than that. We actually have a word for this. It's called crypto Twitter. And what that means is it's kind of like that subset of Twitter users that are familiar with Twitter, and they actually use Twitter to talk about crypto, to NFT art good for the environment, all of that stuff. It happens on crypto Twitter. Now, that's not a platform. Now, when I say crypto Twitter, that's not a platform. It's literally just like Twitter itself, but like there's these self-assembling communities within Twitter that talk about things like cryptocurrencies, NFT art, and all of that stuff. And that's what you're really kind of marketing to. Now, when you say reach, it doesn't matter if you have 3 million followers on Twitter if not a single person there knows, of your followers know anything about crypto. But it still helps, right? I only have 9,000 followers. In fact, my Argentinian comic book collaborator, he only has 4,000 followers. But every single one of those 4,000 followers are art buyers, right? So the type of follower that you have matters more than the number of followers that you have. It doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be the correct type. Now, obviously that's easier said than done. How do you get started with that? I actually have an open page here. I was just gonna share it with you guys really quickly. This is the hashtag cryptoartph, no? And I would start here. So this is the hashtag that a lot of current artists that are doing NFTs that are based in the Philippines, some of them not even based in the Philippines, but they're Filipino. They use this as their way to find other people. So I would start here. So hashtag cryptoartph. I'd start here. You'll see a lot of familiar faces. You'll see Nara Gallery here. You'll see Algorithms here. You'll see Colin and Gabby here. You'll see me here sometimes. You'll see Team Manila. So this is where you would start. Now, what's important to remember here is just because you started in Crypto Art PH, you shouldn't assume that your buyers are going to be Pinoy. In fact, other than my very close friends Colin and Gabby, I don't think I've ever actually sold art to other Pinoys. Most of the people who buy my stuff are from overseas. Now, for better or for worse, it just means that you're probably not ever going to meet your buyers face to face. They're probably never going to be in the same time zone as you. But I've definitely, at least in my personal observations, it does seem like the most amount of action is from kind of collectors in North America. There are collectors in Singapore and Australia, fewer, but at least here in the Philippines, generally, what I observe is that most of my own buyers are not from here. And again, that's a generalization. I'm sure there are many Pinoy artists who can argue the opposite, and they can show me the data that will prove me wrong. But that's just me, right? And my hope is that as we become more and more mature in NFT art, maybe there will be more and more buyers that are locally based. But at the moment, it does feel like I'm mostly selling to North America with my work.
Oh, Louise, we have a
Yes.
question from AJ. Have you bought any NFTs, and if so, any from local artists? Shout out.
Yeah, I know. So I have not yet. I'm actually waiting for the first. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna go about it. So I do want to buy a whole bunch of local artists' work. I just haven't figured out how to go about it yet. Because if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it in a way that really helps promote them. I think that part of the job is not just to buy. I think part of the job is to basically be parang like a mini patron of the arts, no, or of the artists, kind of in the classical sense of it. If you are a good artist, then you are the thing that keeps you alive while you're working on your magnum opus is the support of your patrons. So yeah, that's still something I'm trying to figure out right now.
Should I drop your Twitter profile in there so people can spam you, or you're gonna open up a show thread?
I think that so firstly, I'm pretty sure that the local artists already kind of know me, because like a couple of weeks ago, I put together a tribute video that collects the work of 15 local artists into a single like a music video or demo reel. You'll be able to see it in my Twitter profile if you scroll down a little bit. So I did that, and then I launched it in this this conference in the States, and I was as my example of how far NFT art had come here in the Philippines. So I was able to kind of put that together with the help of a lot of artists. They contributed their artwork to it. I mean, these were pieces that had already been sold. So it's more like, we were just kind of putting it together just to give people a sense of how mature the art scene here actually was. Sorry, did you want to just keep doing questions now? I think that I'm basically done with my
There's a constellation of questions that are all pretty much related, and it has to do with environment and the recent hate that a lot of artists joining the NFT space have received. So people are worried about reputation and are just curious why there's been so much blowback towards certain NFT artists.
Yeah. So okay, so the reason why this is a tricky conversation to have is because the technology itself, the blockchain network, it does consume electricity, right? It consumes quite a bit of electricity. That part is not refutable. Now, the thing that people get wrong is that they think about this stuff as if technology is linear, meaning it never changes. It'll just keep using up all the energy in the world until the earth burns up or something. That's not how tech works. Generally speaking, tech is costly at the beginning, and then after a while it comes down in price as we get better and better at it. We become more efficient. We find better ways to produce the electricity that the network needs. So the argument that your NFT art minting is causing global warming or climate change or whatever, that's a very limited way to think about technology in general. The thing that causes a lot more climate change is kind of the thing that we have in our wallets, which is kind of this paper money that we need to cut down trees to create. Um, the the thing that is most important to remember about NFTs and just blockchain in general is that this technology is work in progress. And the people that are working on it, these are some of the smartest people in the world. They're trying to make it as efficient and sustainable as possible because we're building this stuff for the long term. Like, just to give you an idea of what I mean by that, the Bitcoin plan, just for its issuance and the way it's going to run its network. So Bitcoin is the largest of the cryptocurrencies. That plan stretches to the year 2140. So we're not just thinking about it in terms of making a quick buck, today, this year, or not even this decade. We're thinking about it 100 years from now, over 100 years from now. So that's not. So it's incorrect to kind of just collapse this entire argument into just the fact that your NFT costs electricity, electricity is expensive, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very simplistic way to think about it. Now, that whole conversation deserves its own episode because there's so many details and everything that I've just said, and that I wish I could expound more. And this is literally the kind of thing that I would spend like 2 hours doing a presentation over. But suffice to say that it's not correct to think about it that way. But it's a narrative that has unfortunately taken a lot of hold, and it's very easy for people to get outraged over things that they don't necessarily understand, as long as it seems like it's bad for the environment. And so I would just kind of encourage you guys to do a little bit more research and homework to kind of see what both sides of that debate actually looks like. And I guess that's the fairest way I can kind of address that for now.
We have like a eco, I shouldn't say eco, but there's a more sustainable NFT sort of guide on the Art Fair PH page that links to a GitHub sort of guide that has a bunch of different explanations and suggestions for more sustainable blockchains to mint on. But I would say in a lot of ways, environmental shaming or shaming of artists is even more or just as reprehensible or as terrible. It's because a lot of these artists are it's experimentation, and I think we do have the right to experiment and try new things. I think it's just the media cycles sort of blow it out of proportion, where it seems like the whole world is doing NFTs, but as Louise was saying earlier in his presentation, it's actually not that many artists minting NFTs. And the other thing is that these networks or blockchains that the NFTs run on, they're going to keep running anyways, whether there are NFTs or not, because the primary use case for these networks are financial transactions or products. But with that said, I mean, I think the NFT like the whole industry has really or subsection of crypto has really brought up this important discussion in terms of sustainability. However, with that said, like, I think there are, within technology, like, there are the same environmental issues that we face everywhere. Like with your Amazon web servers, with everyone staying home and buying computers to play games on. And I mean, you can blame crypto. Yeah, obviously there are certain eras where crypto pushed GPU prices through the roof. But just like in our phones and in our there, it's the same sort of thing in terms of the technological consumption and sort of waste, unfortunately, that's produced by our computers and phones and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. Yep, for sure, for sure. We've got a bunch of other questions here. Which ones
Oh
of these
yeah.
did you want to
Okay,
tackle?
there's a good one that sort of relates to your how you're talking about long-term vision, and they were asking, like, how do you see what is it, crypto art in the Philippines in the next 10 years? So more of a speculation of the overall
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to be upfront and honest about my answer to that. I don't know. I think that NFT art is so new that it could take on a whole bunch of different forms. I think that one of the most critical points of the NFT art industry is probably occurring this year. The question of whether or not Ethereum can lower its gas fees to the point where this stuff, we don't have to think about $50 to $300, and we can kind of think about it in terms of $1 or 50 cents or whatever it is, right? The question of whether that is going to be possible with a whole bunch of tech improvements, that is not set in stone yet. I mean, they're definitely trying, but yeah, so that remains to be seen. Um, if they don't, if they don't figure it out, I do think that eventually kind of a lot of people will start to shift elsewhere. I don't know if that will be Tezos. I can tell you that Binance, one of the largest kind of crypto exchanges, crypto companies in the world, they're launching their own version of an NFT marketplace also. They're going to be using their own blockchain, their own network for that. And the costs of minting on that are going to be minuscule. Um, do I think that that has legs? Maybe. I think there's a whole bunch of people that are going to try it for sure, and then we'll see, right? Which ones the winners are. Unfortunately, I think, and maybe this is the thing that you have to remember about crypto in general. No, it's a sunrise industry, meaning that you can't see beyond the horizon just yet, right? Because the thing about sunrises is it's actually quite blinding, no? Because there's a lot of hype. So you're looking, you can barely see what's actually going on the horizon. And then you have to wait until the sun is actually risen, and then you'll be able to see exactly what's out there. We don't know what it is yet, right? We're still going to figure that out, hopefully together. And if you guys are interested, like, you can continue to follow us, myself, Chris, Colin, Gabby. Like, you can continue to follow our exploits in the space, and we'll, the thing I can guarantee you guys is I'm not I will try to be as objective as possible in my feedback. If I think that this stuff isn't working anymore, then the correct thing for me to do is say that I don't think it's working anymore, but maybe here are some alternatives. So what's it going to be like in 10 years? Dude, that is a speculation for the ages. I do not know. But I am 100% sure I'll be around to find out. So I guess that's the one thing that I can say there.
Awesome. Yeah, the next group of questions relates to ethical dilemmas in copying or perhaps sampling, or like uniqueness and authenticity of the originality of the work.
Right. Yeah, okay. Well, so there's a couple of different questions here. So remixing, that's covered by just regular copyright. No, so you can remix things. In fact, so that artwork that sold for $69 million from Beeple, if you look very closely, there are references to Toy Story. There's references to both fictional characters and real life characters in it. Well, not characters, real life people in it. As an artist, you can reference these things as long as you're not just like literally taking a frame from Toy Story and slapping it in your frame and then saying that this is you who has made it. No, that's not what you're doing. You're taking some of these properties and kind of twisting them around. Now, that's protected. Now, however, I don't think it's completely a known thing either yet, whether or not like so my work, a lot of my work, if you start to look at my stuff, I do a lot of pop culture references. My brand name is Crypto Pop, no? So like I do a lot of these references to well-known cultural properties. So I do a lot of Marvel comics, I do a lot of Star Wars, and uh, as of right now, I've never gotten any weird letters from Disney lawyers or anything like that, knock on wood. I believe I'm protected by parody, by the kind of the allowances the law makes for parody, which is kind of how I'm using that work. But, you know, I, I don't think that's set in stone. I think that these are one of the things that we will be discovering as the NFT art world gets bigger and bigger. I'm certainly not the only person who does like comic book characters and things like that. No, I mean my collaborator, the Argentinian comic book artist Jose Delbo, does also make comic book characters in his other work, and he sells them for many multiples of the amounts that I sell my artwork for. So it still remains to be seen, I think. There's one question here. There's one question here that I wanted to like. How would you handle people hiring you to make art for them, and it turns out they're reselling them as NFTs? Okay, so firstly, that's not ethical. I think just broadly speaking, that's not ethical. One of the reasons why NFTs even exist is so that there is now a path that's direct between the artist and the buyer. So if there's a guy in the middle of that, firstly, that's kind of parang it's almost antithetical to the whole concept of NFT art. You don't need it, technically speaking. Now, I think that the correct thing to do, if now I have a lot of friends who are not artists, but they own a lot of art, no? And they own paintings, they own sculptures. They're asking me if they can sell them as NFTs. And my advice is always the same. Yes, you can, but you need to tell the artist and you need to get their permission, because this is, kind of the NFT thing is outside of the realm of your original agreement. NFTs didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago, no? So it would only be fair to ask the artist whether or not they're okay with that. And if they're okay with that, maybe they'll endorse it, maybe you give them a cut, right? And actually, you know what, Chris? I forgot to mention a very important part of NFTs. I forgot to mention that after the 20% commission of the marketplace, the artist actually can also make royalties on every sale of their artwork after the first one. So I make a one of one and I sell it. Maker's Place takes 20%. I keep 80. That's fine. I'm happy. Now let's say Chris bought it and then he resold it to Gabby. During that sale from Chris to Gabby, whatever the price was, I'll make 10% of that. And that is in perpetuity. So that means that the royalties will continue to flow for as long as my work is being resold from one collector to another. And that is a really nice kind of residual income for artists. That is, I think, I don't think that exists in the real world, because like once you've sold that painting, it's very hard to track down who currently owns it, and it's very easy to hide, kind of the sale of something, because the artist has no way to verify kung nabenta na siya ulit or someone else has bought it. But in the case of NFTs, it's very easy to verify that, right? So you get your royalty fee just a couple of days after the sale has been made, and that's always a really great feeling, because without having actually done any new work, you continue to make a little bit of residual income. So that's like another plus in favor of NFTs.
Yeah, I was also thinking that like artists could also include NFT sales as a conceptual practice or a programmable right in the sale of their own works. So like they can request that like a physical work being sold is not legitimate unless it's sold through an NFT sale or purchase. So that way you can sort of ensure that you'll get some sort of resale value in your work in the future or whatnot.
Yeah.
Just as a
Well, that's the modern version of an art sale. Yeah. So I don't know. There's very few artists who are savvy enough to kind of pull that off at the moment. But I do think that eventually we'll just start to see this stuff. That certificate of ownership could be just a minted NFT. Even if the work itself is an oil painting. That's kind of where we're heading, I think. And more and more artists get used to this stuff, as more and more platforms make it easier, that's kind of the thing that's kind of missing. No, it still feels very much like a technical person's vocation at the moment. So if they can make it simpler for other artists to get into it, I think that it'll just become the thing. It'll just become the normal thing for every piece of art that's sold.
There's a question, is it possible to prove or contest if an artist's NFT creation or artwork is fraud or has been copied and claimed as their own from another artist?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but that's not a blockchain technology thing. It's just, that's more of a social thing. So it's happened to me a couple of times, no? So just going back to my examples earlier about OpenC, Wearable, and things like that, I've had art that was copied and pasted from my gallery and resold on Wearable under someone else's name. However, within hours of that person actually posting the artwork there, people on Twitter were already like calling it out, reporting it, and stuff like that. So this is kind of another argument for being very visible on Twitter, because the community helps you out with stuff like this. So the guy wasn't actually able to successfully sell any of the pieces. His account was shut down and he was banned from that marketplace. But I personally didn't see what was happening. It was mostly just other people reporting it. So is it possible to prove it? Well, I mean, it's pretty easy if you were there first. So in my case, because I'd already minted it previously, it was pretty easy to show that I was the original creator. It's a little bit harder if you are an unknown artist and someone just like takes your work from your hard drive and just slaps it onto Rarible. No, it's a little bit harder. And that's kind of one of the other reasons why I like Nifty Gateway or Maker's Place. They're usually pretty careful about the artists that they approve. Like they'll actually do a video interview and try to like look at your past work, try to ask you about your previous gallery experience if you have any, like things like that. No, this stuff is, there's a lot of due diligence that they do that you don't get from the open, like the completely open marketplaces. And that's kind of one of the differences.
So time check, we're at 7:25
Yes.
p.m. So we can maybe wrap up with one or two more questions, but just like to remind the audience that Louise does do a weekly podcast or live stream event on Periscope, and you'll be able to go in there and bug him for on questions and stuff. And I've also pasted the cryptoart PH Discord server. So this is not the crypto PH server. This is the cryptoart PH server. It's specifically for cryptoart, but there's a lot of people talking about crypto in general in that server as well. And yeah, I guess there are two questions about taxes. Do we want to get into tax code here? I think that's something. Crypto tax code is like a whole, I don't think it could be answered in a few minutes, but
well,
it's
I mean, I guess
area,
just
right?
yeah. But there's a broad way to answer that, and that the answer to that is that The BIR does not recognize NFT art sales at this moment in time. Now, whether or not they will later on, that's another question entirely. I will also say that if you only earn in Ethereum, the Philippine government does not actually recognize that as a money either. So kind of like they would not know how to tax you on that. So there may be other advantages to kind of, getting into NFT art. Now, granted, I'm not advocating for tax evasion. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I can tell you that the law has not caught up yet with a lot of these things. Neither has the law caught up with the idea of capital gains through crypto investment. That's another thing that's still quite gray. But anyway, yun. So like, I don't think that that's going to be the case forever. I think eventually, like, we'll just have boilerplate rules for all of this stuff. But at the moment, nothing yet.
And I guess like, let's see. There is 2 questions about like NFTs. Like, does your NFT exist just inside the online platform that you mint on, that you're going to sell in? Can I buy something in one platform and sell it in another? Is the same NFT data readable across platforms?
Yes, sort of. So if I post on Maker's Place and Chris buys it on Maker's Place, he can resell it in OpenC. So there's these cross-compatible marketplaces, so you don't have to stick around in one if you don't like just selling there. I think it's not the same for all. No, so it doesn't always map that cleanly. So if you bought something in Nifty Gateway, you can't necessarily resell it in OpenSea. I don't think, unless you do some kind of conversion. I'm not sure about that one, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm not sure either, because like I researched some of the NFTs on there. I think it exists in a sandbox on the Nifty Gateway, but I do believe you can port it outside of your wallet into the Ethereum network.
Right. Yeah, so let's just say it's not straightforward. I guess that's kind of the most fair way to talk about that. They are trying to do it so that all of these marketplaces, as many of them as possible, are cross-compatible, but that's not the case right now. OpenSea is the one that is generally the most compatible with everything else, but again, it's got its own sets of challenges. No, so when I talk about Maker's Place, which is kind of the platform that I sell most of my stuff on, it's because I've got all of my stuff there. It's because I've got the most amount of followers there. So I've got like a few thousand people following me inside that platform. So whenever I drop something, they all get notifications, right? Those are the kinds of things that are important if you're an artist. And the thing about kind of this type of selling, this type of sales activity, it's not retail. It's not, I'm not trying to sell my work to 1,000 people. I'm trying to sell it to one person. So I only need like a couple of 100 people to look at my thing and hope that at least one of them thinks that it's worth X, right? You're not trying to convince the world. You're trying to convince a handful of people to support your work. And in that sense, it is very similar to the traditional art scene, because there's only really a handful of people who need to buy your work in order for you to be considered successful. And that's kind of a pretty big difference.
Okay, on that note, I think we'll bring Tricky back on, but for everyone, there are some other questions in the Q&A box, and I would strongly suggest to check out Art Fair Philippines website. There's a lot of resources on a very like basic, simple level, and then you can click on some of these images and they will provide you with some sort of source material or a deeper dive into some of the concepts on the website. And on that note, thank you so much, Louise. Learned a lot. It was a great talk.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. I just like to echo that. Thank you very much. I mean, that was awesome. Really great overview. One of the most succinct I've ever heard. I mean, why did I waste so much time on Clubhouse talks when I could have just listened to Louise?
Thank you, Tricky. That's so nice of you to say.
No, really, one of the best things for me about working on this NFT 101 showcase is being able to reach out to a creative community that maybe we've not brought in to the art fair. So that was a bonus of doing this online, reaching out to the crypto artists, the crypto art community. And really, for me, that's like one of the things I remember about this 2021 art fair. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I was super happy to be able to do this. I hope the audience found it as fun and hopefully memorable as I did.
Oh, it was
so
great.
much,
Like
guys.
there were so many questions. This is probably the most questions we've had on the talk during this whole series.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Chris. Of course, we would not be able to do this without you, because Chris was the one who connected us to Colin and Gabby of Nara Gallery, and of course Luis and the rest of the crypto art community here in the Philippines. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Wait. Chris is needed because we need to pose for a photo. Sorry about that. The talk will kill me. So sorry, audience, you're gonna have to bear with us as we smile. Somebody count, please. Therese.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Ready. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much again.
But yeah, I guess this is my last talk. But yeah, thank you, Tricky, and everyone for letting me, asking me to curate this section. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. The pages are still open though until tomorrow. Probably after the website might be up for a while. So please do check out the Crypto 101 page. Chris bled for that. So yeah, take a look at that. Thank you again, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. So thank you again, everybody who tuned in. Thank you to our education partners, the Ateneo Art Gallery, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and Art Review. And tomorrow is the last day of the fair, but we have a full day of talks and events. So please check the Art Fair Philippines website. Tomorrow, something exciting to end our NFT 101 showcase. Colin Goltra will be in conversation with Nathaniel Parrott and possibly another surprise artist. So please register for that. Check out the rest of the events happening for the rest of the day too. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.